segments from now until 9:40, so
Sure.
all of us having a conversation.
Very good. You guys look great.
Hi, my
Okay,
name
here
is
we go.
Alyssa. You may know me as Matt Schlapp's third daughter or the middle child of my family. I love my family a lot, and I love them so much. And one of the most important role models in my life has been my dad. He's helped me through so much, and I love him so much.
Oh, sweet.
Introducing my dad and my hero, Matt Schlapp.
Thank you, sweetie.
Woo!
Matt Schlapp, you raise some good kids, man. Outstanding parenting.
Somebody's getting ice cream today. There's no
Yeah,
question
that's right.
about it.
She read it like I wrote it. That was really good. So, Ian, we're going to get started with a radio show that we do every Saturday at 9 o'clock on Sirius XM Patriot. So we're not live on the radio.
No, we're live.
show.
We're on Matt
Are we
Schlapp.
live now?
We're live. We're
Okay,
talking to channel 125 listeners
The
right now,
miracle
my
of
man.
technology.
Ian's the producer here.
How
We
many
are
of you,
live because-
anybody out there listening to Sirius XM Patriot channel? I thought there might be some people there.
Well, we do this show, like I said, every Saturday, and this one's an extra special show because the name of the show is CPAC 365, right? And this is the day that we prepare, or the couple of days that we prepare all year for. And I cannot believe that the room is already full, standing room only. That's people standing in the back of the room. So for our radio audience from around the country, if you're not here and you're sipping your cup of coffee at home, it's quite a sight to behold. And we have some great guests. And we've thrown these guests a little bit of a curveball because it is a live show and it's spontaneous. And we're going to talk a little bit here as a group. And the first guest, as you heard, is a hero of mine and a personal friend, Chris Cox with the National Rice Bowl Association. Chris, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Matt. It's great to be with you.
And we also have Tammy Bruce, who has a big job as president of Independent Women's Voice.
That's right. That's right.
And you are,
Hey,
she's got some groupies here in the room already.
I hope you're all groupies. Fox News, of course. We love Fox News, don't we? Yeah.
So, Chris, let's start with you. There is so much going on in the world. There's so much news occurring that we sometimes, there's so many of our amendments in the Bill of Rights that are under attack that we could almost forget which one is at the top of the list. And it seems like with the Second Amendment, things have really shifted. Like, they want to take a black Sharpie and just strike this from the Bill of Rights. Give us an update of where the fight sits.
Sure, Matt, and congratulations on a great week here at CPAC, and congratulations on the President of the United States coming this morning. This is going to be a great day. You're all in for a great treat. But it really is important. Part of what you've talked about all week is what makes America great, and the answer to that's simple. It's freedom. And our view of freedom is very different than their view of socialism. And if you look at the Second Amendment, you know, all across this world, you have seen socialist dictators who have disarmed the American people. If you want to prevent socialism from taking hold in this country, make sure you have a strong right to keep and bear arms. And if you want a strong right to keep and bear arms, make sure there's a strong National Rifle Association of America. Because our opponents have changed. We've talked about this over the last 25 years. Barack Obama was on the campaign trail sounding like Charlton Heston's illegitimate child. A great supporter. He's a champion of the Second Amendment. I'm not going to take anyone's guns away. But fast forward, and now they're not hiding. They're not hiding their agenda. It is a full-on disarmament agenda. And the one group that's going to get up every day and make sure that doesn't happen, with the help of friends like you and all across this room and all across the country, is the National Rifle Association of America.
So I think it's important that everyone, let's punctuate this. We used to always hear about gun control. You know, oh, we just don't want certain people to have the ability to own a firearm. We're being careful. Oh, you can have certain regulations under the Second Amendment. That's not where these folks are. It's kind of like on the Second Amendment, it's kind of like what we're hearing on the Green New Deal. And this is going to be the big raw deal That it's going to be like no civilian ownership of guns.
Well, and their agenda hasn't changed. They've always been the Disarm America movement. They've just hidden behind common sense gun control, reasonable regulations, but now they're not hiding. Now you have a group of socialists running for president of the United States who can't get far enough to the left of one another that we do not want you to have firearms. And this is as simple as whether it's economic freedom, tax reform, all of these things.
Can I add
Do you believe
something?
the government has the answer? Should we give the government a raise with more money? Have they done such a great job in Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Maryland, or Chicago, Illinois, keeping us safe that we should just turn over our security to the government, turn over our security? That's not what we do, and please say no to that if they try to convince you.
If I could add, just for perspective, as you open, Matt, about which right seems to, we kind of get confused about what may be happening and what's most under threat. Without the right to bear arms, without you having your firearm, no other right will be enforceable. This is the right that keeps every other right available to you and in your hands, which is why it is the right that they want to remove first. They must, because otherwise you can defend not just yourself, but you can defend this nation, this room, and this kind of conversation. The NRA, as an owner of a firearm, for those of you who do, if you choose to or not, the fact is that, as our founders understood, having a firearm is your individual power. It is your individual freedom as a bulwark against a government that would want to take every other right away. So it is the foundational right that keeps all the others safe in our hands.
You know, Matt, thank you.
Amen.
The truth is, Ian and I were talking about this backstage. If there's something that we do that drives the left crazy, we need to do more of it. And one of the things that drives them crazy is when we refer to the National Rifle Association as the nation's longest and oldest civil rights organization. We fight for your right to defend your life. Black, white, rich, poor, gay, straight, Republican, Democrat, it doesn't matter, because your life is valuable all the same. We're going to do that every day. We're not going to apologize for it. And those who want to take that away from all of us in this room and across the country, they're going to have to go through all of us in this room and across the country.
And when we speak about minorities, it is an equal right, absolutely. But it is individuals who are on the fringes. Those of us who are minorities, if you are a person of color, I know I'm not the only gay person in this room. I happen to know personally, I'm not.
Where are we going in this, Tammy?
Yeah. My point is, the fact is, for people watching, this reformation of this country, the people in this room, is an amazing combination of individuals who love the country. They're patriots. There are certainly Republicans. I'm a Democrat. I'm a registered Democrat. They hate it, but I am. But I am a conservative, and I'm a patriot. And we are the beginning and the front of this reformation, led by Donald Trump and his family, who have given up everything effectively to make sure this nation can get back on her feet. For everyone in this room, you are on the front of this reformation. You can look around. Do not presume that everyone in this room is one way or one person. America is in this room. Everyone who, of course, is opposed to the president and to this reformation needs to understand that just like the election in 2016 was an overwhelming referendum for the president, the CPAC, the American Conservative Union, the NRA, people like me and you, we're the ones leading this reformation, and that's why it's going to continue on.
Love it.
Tammy, let me ask you a quick question. You also host the Tammy Bruce Show.
I do.
Every day, Monday through Friday, right?
Yes, thank you.
That's an active way where you're able to get out a message in a world where we're overwhelmed with the mainstream media,
right.
Which runs the counter message.
Yeah.
They've still got a lot of strength in numbers. They're still talking to 330 Americans in a far more powerful way than a lot of us are capable of doing, even with some of the television networks that we're able to work with. What would you tell the attendees here about how to get the message out, how to find that conservative message and get around the overwhelming noise from the other side?
Yeah, you know, we are, of course, you're a self-selected group. You're at this incredible conference, right? You've made a choice to come here. I see a lot of Make America Great Again hats. So you guys are already making a huge difference. Also remember, we are in a world of mass media, right? We hear a lot about the fake news, and they prove that every day when it comes to their reliance on falsehoods and misrepresentations about what's going on in the country. The good news is that while there's multiple elements of legacy media out there, Fox News remains the most watched, the highest rated network for now, I think, 17 years. And it's continues to do well.
It beats the Home and Garden station channel, I'm pretty sure, unlike some of these
at this
others.
point, and I like Ancient Aliens, I don't know about you guys, but they are also beating CNN. What I would say is, and many of you are already doing this, is that in addition to looking at media, the larger national media, and many of you sometimes get mad at Fox because there are a variety of opinions and there is a variety of looking at ways of what's going on in the country and actual information. But it's also about the internet. I'm not the only one with a radio show, am I, in this room? Many of you have your own radio programs. You have your own podcasts. You have your own websites. You move through the forums and the other elements in the websites and the commentary online. All of us are now moving through that framework. It is now it remains the new media that your involvement in is key. And it is also about speaking up, even locally. It is about involvement not just with your local school, but your local NRA chapter, the Independent Women's Voice, a women's advocacy organization of which I'm the president, which is really moving for genuine progress for women across the board. All women on the issue of personal freedom and the benefits of personal freedom that freedom brings to women in particular. So I think that it's a matter of being active vocally, coming to events like this, making sure you're a vocal presence with your grandchildren and your children, and supporting the president. It is clear he is a man who stands alone in this framework, as real leaders generally are. This reformation will continue for many more years to come, and you are the reason why it's possible. So I think that it's about anybody these days can do a podcast. Anyone can speak, can have a radio program. And it's about looking into that and realizing that you too can make the difference in that regard. And I think most of you already understand that.
Great. Well, let's go back to this question. I love what you just said, Tammy. It's great. I wanted to not get lost on people. You said you're from California.
Yep.
And that you're a registered Democrat, but you're a conservative first. And we hear this all the time about people who say, in this room, there's going to be a lot more diversity on what party you're in. Most of you are probably Republicans. Some of you are probably independent. Maybe there's some other Democrats. Maybe there are people that just don't really get involved in kind of partisan politics. But you're a libertarian. You're a conservative. You're a constitutionalist. You're a limited government advocate. And I think that's awfully important. And we're going to ask you guys to stay through another segment here. But when we come back from break, let's talk about this concept that we're building a coalition here. The National Rifle Association has never been an arm of the Republican Party. Matter of fact, sometimes you even have to take on the Republican Party. You're about preserving, as you said, one of the most important civil rights we have. And so when we come back from break, I want to get into that a little bit. And we're going to be right back to CPAC 365 after this short break.
Get slapped with CPAC 365 on Sirius XM Patriot 125.
quiet. Hello? We're not back quite yet. We're at a commercial break, but I thought I would just ask a couple of questions in the break. First of all, how many of you own a firearm? How many of you are members of the NRA? Chris might be passing out cards later. I don't know if Chris's mic is hot, but that's an awesome thing. Let me ask you another question.
Yeah.
How many of you here are not registered Republicans? See, I see some hands.
There we go.
Hey, there you go. There you go. So I think, from Canada.
Canada.
Let me tell you.
Oh, Canada.
They're coming from Canada because things are looking up here in America,
welcome
maybe. That
here.
might be part of it. By the way, I know what this man does in Canada, and he facilitates, let's just say, meat eaters in Canada on his land. How many acres you have?
I just realized.
200 miles by, in Kansas, we'd call that a lot. 200 miles by 200 miles. 15 seconds, here we go, we're gonna get started.
So this is going to be a bigger audience.
No, this is good.
Broadcasting from CPAC 2019 in National Harbor, Maryland. This is CPAC 365 on Sirius XM Patriot.
Welcome back to CPAC 365 from CPAC. Let everybody across the country hear from you. Standing room only in National Harbor, the largest hotel in the swamp. We are here with Tammy Bruce, the president of Independent Women's Voice, and who you all love, I know, and Chris Cox with the National Rifle Association. Chris has a very long title, and I always avoid saying it because I know I'm going to screw it up.
I do the Lord's work in the devil's city, man. That's what I do for a living.
That's exactly right. The executive director of the Institute for Legislative Affairs, is that close?
Legislative action, pretty
Legislative action, okay. See, now I'm gonna get a lawyer who calls me, right, because I got it wrong. But these are really two of our heroes. And before we went to break, we were talking about the fact that, in my opinion, you guys feel free to disagree with me, that I think our politics in America, I'm not gonna talk about Canada, our politics in America are much more about being a coalition of people that are motivated for different reasons. We have one-issue voters, that care really mainly about one issue. We have people who are Republicans, libertarians, conservatives. Conservatives come in different stripes. There's paleo, there's neo, there's this, there's that. And to me, I'm less concerned about what box you check in terms of how you're a part of the coalition and the fact that you want to be a part of the coalition. Chris, the history of the National Rifle Association, that's what you're all about. You're all about talking about the issues that matter.
Well, absolutely. And, we finished the last segment with a great question from Ian and a great answer, but I just want to add just briefly to that, because you can't pray for the health of 5 Supreme Court justices as a legal strategy. You can't pray for bad weather as an election strategy. If you leave here with one takeaway, leave with, if not us, who? If we don't work to defend this freedom, if we don't work to defend what makes this country great, who is going to do it? The left's not going to do it. The mainstream media is not going to help us in that. But leave committed to making a difference, and think just for a moment about what this country is going to look like if we lose these great constitutional freedoms. If the other side succeeds, if Hillary Clinton had become president, what would this conversation be? We'd be having a conversation about a Supreme Court that was stacked against individual freedom. We would have a government that was working against us and was being weaponized against us. They haven't stopped with their goal. It's up to us to work together. As far as the National Rifle Association, we represent who you talked about, black, white, rich, poor, gay, straight, all different walks of life all across this country who believe that our lives matter, that we have a right to defend ourselves. And the NRA is going to fight unapologetically and as part of this coalition for what's right, because freedom's never failed anywhere in the world. All these other ideas have failed, but freedom's never failed. Freedom's not the problem. And whether it's economic freedom, individual, religious freedom, constitutional freedom, economic freedom across the board, that's what we need to focus on. And so I'm excited that we're having this conversation, and I hope everybody leaves here committed to making a difference.
And for everyone watching and everyone in this room, we had a pretty bad midterm Patriots, conservatives, the American people had a pretty bad midterm. We're seeing the result of that now. And part of that is because conservatives did not necessarily go out and vote. Let me just reassure you, having come from the left, that liberals do not mean well. The Democratic Party do not give them space in that, well, everyone, they mean well, and they're just mistaken. No, they don't mean well. They see this nation as the problem. So your commitment, and look, no one is absolutely perfect. The president is an extraordinary leader because of his humanity and because of his caring about this country. And there will be times when we disagree with him sometimes. But he also cares about what you think. This is a man who then also is willing to and needs to hear from us. But what the left wants to do is depress you. They want you to think that this is over, that you are out of bounds already. We already have seen what works. This man, Donald Trump, a surprise to many of us, has done what no other president has been able to do already with historically low unemployment rates for women, people of color, everybody. An extraordinary, the best economy in the world after just 2 years being at the helm. This is just the beginning. But when it comes to your presumption about the strength of the country, yes, it is incredibly strong based on what the founders created. But it is a living entity that requires your commitment. You, not Nancy Pelosi, not the Clintons. We've seen with the FBI the level of corruption that can exist. Imagine, as we've noted, God forbid, President Trump has already done his biggest job, which has made sure that Hillary Clinton didn't become president. Imagine if she had none of what has gone on that has been revealed, we would not know any of it. Those individuals would be in the executive cabinet in all likelihood. Certain people would be the Attorney General or the Secretary of State. Who knows, maybe James Comey would be Secretary of State. Is this what they imagined? But we do know now, and it's just the tip of the iceberg. So when we think about the overall sense of, yes, the imagining of the greatness of the country that we have, and some people have been complaining, some very big conservative stars, that he hasn't done X already. President Trump has not done everything he said. It's been 24 months. After 200 and some years, after generations of Republican and Democratic leadership, God forbid Donald Trump doesn't accomplish everything in 24 months. He has another 6 years, and then we must worry about the next 8. But he will only be as good as you. Donald Trump will be as good as he can be, but he's only here because of you, and he will only be as successful as you want him to be. You are the co-president, effectively, the American people, and he has been able to accomplish this in 24 months because you wanted it as well. Look, I was not with him at first. I'm one of those people who was transformed, and I thank him for that every day. I thank him for proving me wrong and for me to realize that, yes, he is the American dream, and what you've been able to do in lifting him to this position to help all of us, you are the manifestation of that, and I'm grateful for that.
Way to say it. That's awesome. Now, we got a big, you talked about the midterms, Tammy, and certainly if you look at the House of Representatives and you look at states like California.
Do we have to look at the House of Representatives?
I want Chris to help us because we've had a lot of headlines about how, we'll call them liberals, I have different names for them, but how they've changed the election laws. And a lot of states seem even further from our reach. And we're worried about what maybe when Democrats get in power, what they do to be able to stay in power. Since you handle this big swath for the NRA, all this question about passing the right kinds of legislation and making sure we have the right senators and congressmen and state legislators elected, what can be done in this area?
Well, Tammy hit the nail on the head. We have to stay engaged. Look, our opponents are disciplined. You have to give credit where credit's due. They're disciplined with their messaging. They're disciplined with their money. They're disciplined with their defense of their leaders. and we form circular firing squads on our side and make fools of ourselves on a regular basis. So we have to bring the same passion and commitment that we brought in 16 every single day. Because again, all you have to do is remind yourself of what the outcome's going to be if we move in the wrong direction. And look, they will change the Senate rules, and they will jam every bad idea, Green New Deal, everything they can do. They will jam it through the U.S. Senate, put it on a Democrat
What you're
president's
saying
desk.
is if the Democrats, God forbid, take over the Senate again, they are going to get rid of the filibuster rule on legislation, and they will jam everything through.
We haven't had the guts to do it on our side, so we've never given all of our great ideas really an opportunity to flourish and to show that we're right. But mark my words, when they take the Senate, they have a Democratic president, they will change the rules and they will jam whatever they want to jam through. Hopefully, thanks to President Trump, we're going to have a Supreme Court where we'll live to fight in the legal arena, thank God. But that's what they're going to do, and it is going to be, they will lie, cheat, and steal to get that opportunity, and no one else is going to stand in their way of that power and the power being used against we the people, but we the people. So as long as we stick together and fight back together, and that's what we're going to do.
Go ahead, Ian.
Tammy, let me ask you, I'll set it up this way. In 2015, I think that was Matt's first year as ACU and CPAC chairman, we featured all of the relevant Republican candidates here on the CPAC stage.
Who was here in 2015? Who was at 2015 CPAC? Oh, wow, we got a whole new group. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
This particular seat, each CPAC has its own flavor. This one very much has felt like the past 2 days is the kickoff of the 2020 cycle and the 2020 presidential campaign. There's no event like this on the left for the 25 Democrat candidates to go to.
25? I think it just got to be 26 or 27.
You're right. Somebody announced yesterday, the mayor of something or other. Of that field, assess the field for us here at CPAC. Who's going to be tough? Who's got the chops to get that nomination? What's that process going to look like with the overblown field? Who's going to rise to the top?
Well, we presume that that's all things being equal. The Democrats cheat, don't they? The
I
Democrats
heard it's
cheat.
rigged. Sometimes it's
Yes,
rigged.
and this is not just hyperbole or partisan rhetoric, because I'm a partisan for the United States of America, aren't we all? Right? This is where we stand. But what we saw in 2016, and why the Democrats and many of my Democratic friends were enraged at seeing the cheating and the rigging through the DNC for Hillary Clinton and against Bernie Sanders. So you can have a grassroots movement, but they have an establishment that really has no interest in that actually happening. The Republicans, interestingly enough, even those we saw in 16, a whole swath of establishment Republicans thinking that they were going to knock off Donald Trump. And perhaps it would have been possible if Donald Trump wasn't serious, if we weren't engaged, as I've just mentioned to you. So for the Democrats, there's clearly already a favorite, and that would be Kamala Harris, right? I've mentioned that Elizabeth Warren.
You guys like Kamala Harris? Is that your candidate? I just wanted to clarify things,
Elizabeth
okay?
Warren, she knows she's not going to be the nominee, but what her candidacy would do, interestingly, is split that progressive vote, right? So if someone's worried about the progressive vote between, let's say, that would support Bernie Sanders, who's much more popular than Elizabeth Warren, but when you have somebody who's, why would Elizabeth Warren be doing that? Unless, of course, that makes things easier for someone else. So these are the kinds of arrangements and deals that occur. I think that the strongest candidate will be the one that the media keeps telling you is the strongest, is their favorite. Like with Kamala Harris, was it a CNN reporter helping her find a new coat and trying it on for her and, loving the new fashion? That is the person that the media is going to approve of. Hillary, in some ways, still wants it to be her. I sure hope it is. Wouldn't
that be awesome?
Oh, yeah. Hillary, please do it. I worked on the 1992 Clinton campaign. And let me tell you something. I would love for her to rerun. But here's the key, is that we don't go out to be against something. We go out to support something and to lift this country up.
Difference.
That is the difference.
Yep.
The Democrats go out there and are generated by hate and rage. You go out and you are generated by love and a look to the future for your families. So yes, I say clearly, let it be any anybody. Let them come in. They all thought they'd be in the current administration, by the way, so they're scrambling to find their new job. But let me just say, let it be anyone. This movement is correct. This reformation is exactly the right thing at the right time with the right man. And no matter who runs, as they saw in 2016, bring the tissues, because there'll be liberal tears for quite some time.
Cox, jump in here.
Well, I have a slightly different take. And the problem for the left is we have serious challenges facing this country here and abroad. These are serious times. They have no solutions to anything. And so I honestly don't think it matters who they put up.
They'll make it worse. They want more of the bad.
Their agenda and their campaign is going to be to try to destroy this president. It's going to be to try to attack this president. He's a terrible human being. His policies are racist. His policies
and
are just
his supporters
awful.
and you.
All of us are
Deplorables.
Deplorable individuals. And so it doesn't really matter, in my opinion, who they pick up or who they pick, because their campaign will not be one about bringing people together and lifting people up.
All right,
and
so let me ask you.
Solutions. It'll be destructive.
First of all, is there anybody here who's a deplorable? We got a couple here, there. Let me ask you about the Republican side, okay?
Good question.
There's some Republicans trotting around talking
Bring
about
it.
how they're going to take on the president. How's the NRA looking at that primary potentially?
I hope John Kasich runs, because I would love to be part of President Trump's team to defeat John Kasich or defeat any of these other Republicans who want to undermine this most successful president we've had in modern history.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
We're with this. We stand with this president. We do so unapologetically, and we did it back before it was the cool thing to do.
And this is why some of us are not Republicans, because of that mentality that still feeds through. The Mitt Romneys of the world, who do not see this as success of this president, which is undeniable. This is not about hyperbole. These are undeniable facts. And some of them are jealous, and some of them, of course, just are looking for their future as opposed to yours. But they are no match for you.
That's right. Let me, you want to jump in, Chris?
The country's doing great. Numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
Complain all you want. This president's doing a hell of a job. We all need to support him every way we can.
Okay, so let's give it up for Chris Cox with the NRA and Tammy Bruce from Independent Women's Voice. Thanks for being on CPAC 365 today. We will be right back to CPAC 365 after this short break.
Woo, you guys look great.
CPAC 365 on Sirius XM Patriot 125.
We're going to get started here again in less than a minute. Has the president been tweeting this morning? Does anyone know? You know what we call him on this show? We call him TOTUS, the tweeter of the United States, which hasn't really caught on. That needs to catch on. Maybe we should all tweet that today. I think he's saving his good stuff for today at 11:30. What do you think? That's what I think he's doing.
This is CPAC 365, broadcasting from CPAC 2019 on Sirius XM Patriot 125.
Welcome back to CPAC 365, live from CPAC. Great to be with all of you. For those of you listening across the country, we are at the largest hotel in the nation's capital, and it's a standing room only audience filled with wonderful conservatives who are here to hear from all of these great conservative leaders. This lineup is pretty unbelievable. Is anybody going to hang around today to hear the president at 11:30? How many of you got to witness the humdinger from Vice President Mike Pence yesterday? That was a great speech. And the setup to the Vice President with Larry Kudlow indicting and prosecuting socialism. That was awesome. Larry Kudlow is a great guy. And then we were able to literally drag off Air Force One the White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney, who was with us last night. He gave us insights on the trip to Asia. So it's really been a star-studded CPAC, Ian.
Schlapp, before we usually do top stories when we're in the studio, and before you introduce our next guest, let me get your thoughts. Our friend Larry O'Connor brought it up last night at the Ronald Reagan dinner about the Washington Post's correction to its coverage of the Covington, Kentucky school kids.
Yeah, I don't know, how many of you followed this Covington story? And the Covington kids, do you know why they came to the nation's capital? They came to the nation's capital to march against what the governor of Virginia and the governor of New York want to see happen, which is literally post-birth abortions. That's how crazy. Do you remember it wasn't long ago when there was this concept of a partial birth abortion? And the left said, that's a phony name. There's no abortion that occurs when the baby is pulled out of the canal and is then killed. That's a made-up thing. Now you have liberals and Democrats who are saying, oh yeah, it's a thing. After the baby is fully born, you can still have an abortion. That's what those kids were up here to march about. And along the way, they walked over to the Lincoln Memorial to pay homage to a great former president, and they became victims of what's happening to a lot of these students here. I don't know if the students who are in the audience, raise your hand if you feel like social media takes advantage of your point of view and you don't get a fair shake, and you don't get a fair shake in the classroom, and your voice is trampled. And what we saw in this case is that a student at a tender age is victimized by somebody who takes a video with their phone, edits it, snips it, mischaracterizes it in an attempt to destroy someone's life.
It is a sad reflection when you see, people who are supposed to be serious media personalities going after teenagers. When you and I were younger men, teenagers were off the board.
Right.
You wouldn't do something like that. You took care of young people, and I think we really ought to start doing that again, and that's why we're here at CPAC.
That's why we're here, and the great thing about CPAC is we've been telling you that this CPAC movement's going global, and it's the truth. And we talked to you about Australia, and it is our honor to have a conservative leader from Australia Andrew Cooper with us here today. Give Andrew a rousing welcome. Andrew is the president of Liberty Works.
That's correct.
And you have a big announcement to make.
I have a great announcement to make. Liberty Works has partnered with the American Conservative Union to bring CPAC down under.
Does anybody want to go?
August 9 and 10 this year in Sydney. The harbour will be sparkling, the Opera House will be gleaming, and there'll be lots of Australians down there that will just want to say, "G'day, mate." So come down and join us.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit, are Conservatives winning in Australia? And you even explain things a little differently down there.
Yeah, so the ruling Conservative Party in Australia, which is in power at the moment, Prime Minister Morrison, is a Liberal. It's a Liberal party in the European sense of the word. But the polling has shown that they're going to get absolutely smashed at the May election. The Labor Party has run some very effective campaigns, and the Liberal Party, in my opinion, have lost their way a little bit. And I think there's going to be, do you use the term navel gazing?
Yes.
You know what I mean? So
yes.
there's going to be a lot of navel gazing over coming months. And what I'm hoping, and what will happen, is that CPAC in August, after the May election, will become an awesome rallying point for Conservatives in Australia.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And we're also going to be in Tokyo, Japan this year as well. And if you guys are interested in participating in these events, come talk to us, because we always have a great contingent of American conservatives who go down there. So now you've been walking the halls of CPAC here in Washington, D.C. Tell our CPAC audience and our listeners from around the country, what are a couple of your takeaways?
Well, the thing I love about this is the energy and the passion and the desire to see America great again. And I mean, it's just fantastic. We have a compulsory voting system in Australia.
Wait a minute. You have to vote in Australia?
You have to vote. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. None of this register to vote. You're registered. You're on the list. You got to vote. So when people are forced to do something, they don't necessarily embrace it with all the gusto that they might. And the parties don't have to, encourage people to get out to vote. So it's a different system. But we're sort of sleepwalking our way into a sort of a big government, high tax, terrible budget deficits economy. And we've had, I think it's 30 years of continuous economic growth, but it'll end soon. It'll end badly.
So we talked about our trip to Tokyo, and we see all these MAGA hats out here. And when we went to Japan CPAC, a lot of Japanese citizens were wearing MAGA hats. And I asked them, I said, why would you be wearing a hat that says "Make America Great Again"? Why aren't you wearing a hat that says "Make Japan Great Again"? And the answers I got were some iteration through an interpreter, and I might need an interpreter in Australia actually too. But was because America has a president who understands that our biggest global menace is China, and we love him for it. So we think of the changes that President Trump and the Trump agenda is making in America, but there are countries, important allies like Australia, around the globe where he's also making an impact. What would be the impression with libertarians and conservatives in Australia from what they're seeing happening in America?
Well, I think, Australians take great interest in American politics, but I think it'd be fair to say that the media runs an anti-Trump agenda in Australia, across the board. So I think what Trump demonstrates, though, is that you can stand up, you can say passionately what you believe in, you can take action on controversial issues, and you can do things, and the voters will follow. What we have in Australia is it's very much a political system that's run by pollsters and careful analysis of the numbers, and no one's game to do anything anymore. And I think after this next election, there's going to be a lot of, as I said before, navel-gazing, and I'm hoping that the Conservatives in Australia will start to rediscover what they actually believe in, what they stand for, and go out into the marketplace, go out into the electorate, and they need to passionately argue those. And I think only when they do that can they grasp back, future elections. And I think what Trump has done is he's been an example that if you do things a little different, it doesn't necessarily mean that the voters won't follow.
In Australia, do you think they're open to kind of an outsider in politics too? Or do they like to go up through the waited in line system, which the Republican Party did for so long?
Yeah, look, it's a different system. It's a different political system. So we don't elect a president. We essentially have a queen. So the battles are fought out in smaller seats with potential MPs that are trying to get 51% of the vote. So it is a different system.
Your classic parliamentary system.
Classic parliamentary system.
Right,
Yeah. It doesn't quite provide the show that you guys have.
Well, maybe you need to reform the whole system. You don't know.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Countries have to
Sometimes
do
you've got to tear it down to build it up again.
That's exactly right.
Andrew, give us a read on what the media structure is like in Australia. Is
Yeah.
it as biased as it is here in America? Are there challenges for conservatives to get their message out?
I don't think it's quite as polarised as it is here, but there's two big, large media organisations. News Corp is one of them, with Rupert Murdoch, who is traditionally fairly conservative leaning, but then there's a large left-leaning media powerhouse that is unashamedly looking for left, favouring the left.
Do Aussies watch both channels, or do they choose one?
I think typically we choose one, but it's not to the same extent here. It definitely feels more polarised here. But you have a bigger media, more networks, more people competing. So I guess there's more networks trying to find their niche and trying to find their audience.
How about any independent media for grassroots activists to participate in?
Yeah, there's not a lot. So you look to the internet. You look to the internet.
Very good.
So we have at CPAC here in America, we have assemblage of a great amount of students and high school students and college students. Over 50% of the people here at the conference are students.
Yeah, fantastic.
And one of the problems is, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
The problem, as you guys know, is most of the institutions that you guys are learning in, I hope you're learning, are liberal. And they're not liberal in the sense of open-minded and wanting you to learn. They're liberal in the sense that they're pushing a really strong agenda, and it's an agenda that you all disagree with. And one of the reasons why you're here is because you want to make a statement, and you want to, I guess every once in a while conservatives need their safe space too. Come together and get some comfort and actually build up your enthusiasm again. In Australia, is there a similar dynamic where institutions don't embrace the idea of limited government powers, et cetera?
Well, I think most of the institutions don't embrace that. I think, for example, the universities were essentially government-funded organisations back home, deplatforming, as some of the universities have done here, and it's becoming a real problem. And of course, the educators, the lecturers, the professors, they're typically left-leaning as well. The schools are controlled by a national curriculum, so everyone's taught the same stuff that's fed to them by bureaucrats coming out of the capital city. So essentially, you're getting kids that are getting to their mid-20s, and they haven't had any sort of classical education and classical Western values. They haven't had that. They've gone through a system now that's churning out sort of cookie-cutter, left-leaning.
Right.
Yeah, and it's difficult to see how that's going to turn around.
So basically in America, as we said, we refer to ourselves as conservatives, but it's kind of confusing because we're really classical liberals.
Yeah.
And what do I mean by that? We're the open-minded ones. We're the ones who are guided by logic. We're the ones that believe that there's certain undeniable truths to life. We believe in a concept of natural law, that there are things like gravity that just are true, and that's true in all areas of life. What do you all think that now the liberals seem to want to be socialists? We should grab back this title of being the classical liberals And then all these professors on these campuses are going to be very confused. They're not going to know what they're talking about. But there are these moments when we have a chance. The other thing is, you can see how this stage is very red. By the way, how beautiful is the stage this year? Did they not do a great job? How the hell did we get to be the movement of red? They were red. We were blue, remember? So maybe we need to grab blue back as well. So these words do matter. And what is strange is we never steal their word.
Yeah.
We let them steal our word. They change the definition of the word. They make it something completely opposite sometimes from what it's intended to mean. And we're so passive about it. We let them steal the word.
Slap, there's nothing like this on the political left in America. When you have CPAC, you clearly see a diversity of thought, a diversity of ideas. I thought about it, and the left does have something similar, where it is a social and their community gets together. It's protests.
Yes.
And everybody shouts the same thing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. So let's go to this there. What's the other dynamic we have in this country? How many of you now watch award shows? Come on. You don't want to watch a show where they completely make fun of you for 3 hours? I can't believe that. That can't be true. In America, it seems like if you become a television star or a movie star, you become a political expert. I don't know when that happened. You got the same dynamic in Australia?
We got the same thing. I mean, it's they must instill it to inject it during acting school or something. You know, it's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like getting your PhD in politics just because you get famous. Now, we've actually had some wonderful people who want to come to CPAC when they get famous, and I always love one of my favorite parts of CPAC. First of all, how many of you loved listening to Brian Kilmeade last night who were able to come to the dinner? He's awesome. He gave us all a history lesson if you weren't there. He actually gave us a PowerPoint presentation, and he made it fun and taught us history, or retaught us history, which was just awesome. And how about Rick Harrison from Pawn Stars? He's a pretty cool dude. It was great to have him back here again, but I fear, quietly, just so you guys know, a lot of these famous people actually do reach out to us, but they know that if they have the audacity to walk on this stage and hang out with you, that they'll try to, their career could be destroyed because there's such a left-wing orthodoxy that's taken hold of so many of our important cultural institutions. And we've got to make sure that that changes. And one of the reasons we come together as CPAC is because, do you know what you've done every day of CPAC so far? What will happen today is every day on Twitter, we trend. The social media reach can get up to 1 billion impressions. And we're having a big, big impact. We're not just having a big impact in America, we're having an impact in Australia.
We are. Come to CPAC Down Under.
We're having an impact all over the globe. Thank you all for being a part of a very special episode of CPAC 365. This is Matt Schlapp, and it's back to the rest of CPAC. Thank you very much. Thanks, man. That was fun.